Pigweed here. Today we review a red ale and discuss the Tucker Putin interview. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crow Hill. Good evening, Crow Hill.
Good evening, Pigweed.
What's on your mind?
Well, remember our friend Jose from high school?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so I was talking to him the other day. I hadn't spoken with him for years. And he's really, really smart.
Oh, so he's not the a-hole he was in high school, or what?
No, he's still an a-hole. He's just very smart.
I see. So
I was
you say you can be one thing, right? It's
Yeah, I mean, in high school, all I noticed was that he was an asshole.
Right.
But speaking with him recently, and I mean, he's still an asshole, but he's pretty smart.
Okay.
I was very impressed.
So does that mean you want to be best friends now?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yes.
I'm just saying that he's quick. He's got a lot of facts, and he can reason well. I was very.
But it doesn't
impressed.
mean you have to. But you don't necessarily have to admire the guy.
I'm not going to take
He's
warm showers with him or anything. No,
Okay.
it's just.
Right.
Yeah, he's
Might
just
as
very
well
smart.
somebody else I don't know, but I've heard an interview with.
Ah, okay, that's true. Yes, it does. But first, let's drink this. What do we got here?
Well, we have St. Patrick's Day on the horizon.
We do.
Broke up my green shirt for the occasion,
Mhm.
and I don't think I've had. Oh, I've had O'Hara's Stout before.
Yes.
I think I've had the Irish Red, but not the Nitro
Yeah,
Irish Red.
I don't think I have either. So the interesting thing about nitro is CO2 imparts a flavor to beer.
Yeah.
So nitrogen doesn't impart that flavor. It has a different. It makes a creamy, really creamy.
Yes,
head.
and changes the mouthfeel
It does.
because of the nature of the bubbles.
That's right, because the bubbles are way smaller, which is some weird physics thing. Why the
Ooh.
nitrogen bubbles are smaller than CO2 bubbles?
It's smellier than your Killian's Red Ale, which doesn't have any scent at all. But this is
Yeah, it's got like a caramelly
it
kind of a
certainly
smell.
does caramel for sure.
Yeah, so it says that Irish Red Ale with hints of caramel and mild nutty biscuit. I'm not sure I'm getting the biscuit. The caramel for sure. I can smell the caramel. I can taste the caramel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the creaminess you can't deny.
Absolutely.
And yes, so it's not red like maraschino cherries.
No.
But it's a natural redness. How would you get that natural redness?
So specialty grains. A little bit of roasted barley and a little bit of caramel or crystal malts, apparently.
Yes, but must be a very little bit, because you can put in 3 ounces and turn your beer black.
It's amazing.
I mean,
know.
this would have to be like a
2 or 3 grains.
teaspoon of very dark malts. I think that's where this redness comes from. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's very nice.
Yeah, very nice. Imagine a Boddington with a little bit, little bit more malty and a little bit of caramel flavor. That's basically what we got here.
Yeah, yeah.
And a beautiful red color.
Right. I don't know if it's 12 ounces or a pint. I'm not sure. What am I dealing with here?
Oh,
Is it a
yeah.
12
So
or
it's
is it a 16?
it's a very important number here. It's 440 milliliters,
Which translates easily into
14.88 fluid ounces. Like, why would you do that? Why not make it 450 milliliters
Right.
or 15 ounces? I mean,
I don't know.
something clear. But I don't understand when we get these weird beers from Europe, and I understand that it doesn't translate completely into ounces. Okay, fine. But they don't even have a sensible number on the milliliter
No,
side.
like, okay, so it's 11.88. What is that, like 350 milliliters? No, not really.
It's like 313 or some dumb thing like
Not
that.
even a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Right.
it's weird.
Anyway.
Okay. All right, so who is this other smart person you were thinking about?
Yes. So, so Mr. Putin. It's not like...
You can't say something nice about
you can't
Putin.
say, right. It's like, what if he's got a excellent suit on or something like no, you can't
No, it's a terrible suit. It's a Walmart suit.
I mean, the guy could have some positive qualities, even if you don't think he's
That's right.
a good guy.
He has good dental work.
Yeah,
No, he
geez.
doesn't. His teeth are terrible. Yeah.
So you got a little bit of that from...
Chris Cuomo and...
yes, but all right, so let's just back it up to before the interview.
Right.
There were people were getting hairs on fire.
I know. Everybody was hysterical.
Well, first off, hold on. But first off, before he told anybody at all, the CIA knew that he was going.
Oh, I know. And,
So let's
and years ahead of time. So apparently, Tucker had planned to interview Putin before the Iraq War. And what he found out was that wasn't the CIA, maybe it was the CIA.
The Iraq War?
No. Before Russia invaded, did I say Iraq?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Gosh, that's a long time ago, but anyway.
No, before Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Ukraine. He was thinking of going over and interviewing him. And then he found out through a contact in D.C. that the CIA had hacked his his account. What's the one that's supposed to be really secure? There's some messaging service that's supposed to be really secure.
End-to-end encryption. It can't be hacked.
Whatever it was, it'll come to me.
Telegram?
No, it starts with an S. But apparently they got into his...
The Skype?
It wasn't Skype. And got into his thing and found out that he was looking into going to Russia. And then when he found out about that, he got kind of concerned. And he checked with some law firms and found out he would be in legal peril if he went to visit Russia and to talk to Putin.
Well, how come that legal peril didn't deter him in this case?
I think this time he just said, "What the heck?" He said he's not going to let us stop him.
I don't know how it could. I mean, you're a citizen.
You're a journalist.
You're going to talk to anybody you want. So yes. So when they got hairs on fire, yes, I saw the memes. You had Barbara Walters in Cuba. You had Dan Rather talking to Saddam. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like there was like 4 worldwide monsters that every major journalist would love to have an interview with.
Yeah.
But for some reason, now this is treasonous, and could he possibly be hanged?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of hair on fire, but what came out afterwards is that lots of journalists have requested to interview Putin, and he hasn't granted the interview. So I think the problem was they were reacting to the fact, well, why Tucker? Why are you? Obviously, he's a puppet. Obviously, he's a stooge. Obviously, you're only giving the interview to him.
All right, so it wasn't hair on fire. It was childish tantrum.
Yes,
I see. I get those two mixed up sometimes.
That's right. So he had thought about doing it before, found out that the CIA had hacked his account, was scared, and then eventually said, "To heck with it, I'm going to do it anyway." Right. And then set up the interview and went and did a 2-hour interview with Putin.
All right, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with the whole with the idea or wanting to, or if you'll recall, and I'm sure our listeners will remember our discussion on the PNC show about what was Putin thinking.
Yeah.
What better way to find out what Putin is thinking?
Ask him.
Right. So our position on the Ukraine war was not, was so. What was his strategy here? I mean, he's not a crazy person. He's not a mad man with no motive. Yeah. He's got a position, and we kind of tried to make the case that what we thought he was thinking. And I'm going to just say we were pretty right about how he explained himself. About not whether he's right, but what's going on in his mind and how he has convinced himself that he's right in the perspective of the Russian people.
Yeah, and there's a problem with that word "mad," because when you think of a madman, you think of somebody, crazy eyes, and just doing irrational things.
Yes.
And that's not what we mean when we say that, Vlad the Impaler was a madman. Yeah. He had his reasons for what he did.
Yes.
And
now, Macias from the Equatorial Guinea.
He was mad.
He was a crazy person.
Yes.
Combination of like
drugs
and syphilis or whatever.
That's right.
But yes,
he was crazy.
This is not what's going on.
But a lot of these people that we think are mad, they have some rationale behind what they're doing. A rationale that we don't accept.
Yeah.
But they have some rationale. And in order to counter them, in order to deal with them, in order to understand them, you need to understand that mindset.
And so Tucker gave him about 35 minutes of explaining 1,200 years of Russian history.
Yeah. So why did you invade Ukraine? Well, in the year 800.
Yeah, it did. You're right. It was. It was like, in 860 when the Prince of Sweden went down to Novgorod.
The app is called Signal, by the way.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, I finally got it.
Very good.
I had to work through that S word.
But even that's not uncrackable by the CIA.
It is crackable by the CIA. Yeah, they got into it. So if you think you're hiding things because you're on Signal, Nope, you're not.
Yeah. What if I just go into cognito mode on?
Oh, that fools everybody.
They'll never get past that.
They'll never get past that. No, that's so secure.
Okay, so yes, so he tells the whole story of probably boring story for the first 1100 years.
Yes, although Candace Owens had some hard words for people who said, "Oh, come on, this is so boring." It's like, well, that's because you're stupid. she was like, "Don't you have some interest in history?"
Yeah.
And I don't think Candace was saying that he was giving accurate history, because apparently a lot of historians say that a lot of what he said was bunk.
Right.
But the idea is, let's get into his mind. What is he thinking?
Right.
Why?
So in that process, he was going, the two nations are intrinsically linked from 1,200 years ago.
Yes.
In fact, the beginning of the Rus, which gives the word to Russian, was actually in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So, so he was just setting up. This is how we view the world.
Yeah.
And
there are deep roots in the connections between Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
And some of them have to do with orthodoxy. And I don't really understand how orthodoxy works, but something about the patriarchates and things with Ukraine and Russia. There's a lot of connections going on there that people in the West just plain don't understand.
Yeah. So then he gets all the way. So let's zoom it up through the fall of the
Soviet Union. Yeah.
Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And he makes it sound like, we wanted to play nice and you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, he's a smart guy. Is he playing us, or is he saying this is how we view the situation? So either is he viewing it from a perspective that we can't understand? Is he BSing us because he's a former KGB agent and that's how he operates?
Yeah.
Or what? Right. So
well, isn't it funny that while we're upset that Vladimir Putin might have been giving us a spin on Russian history and on why he invaded Ukraine, we just recently sat through listening to Joe Biden yell at us during the State of the Union, saying all kinds of myths and fairy tales. Like we have come to expect that our presidents will spin and lie and distort and say all kinds of just patently false things on both sides. But we've just become accustomed to that. But then we expect the Russian guy to come out and tell the God's honest truth. I mean, come on.
Right.
Obviously, he's going to spin it. Obviously, he's going to say his point of view.
And I'm saying, all right. So here you had the whole Soviet Union, which includes the whole Eastern Bloc.
Mm-hmm.
You lose pretty much everybody, and then they say, all right, look, you're peeling off everybody that used to be in our sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dismissing us and treating us like someone that's defeated. And all I said was, don't touch Georgia or Ukraine. Yeah. That's it. You got Poland and everybody else.
We also supposedly, and I'm not sure if this is true, but this is what's claimed. Supposedly, we made an agreement after the fall of the Berlin Wall and after East Germany was incorporated into West Germany and became Germany. Supposedly the agreement was, as long as you don't move NATO farther east.
That's how he says it.
Yes, a lot of people will say that. And of course, NATO has been marching east significantly for decades. Yeah.
And now until it's right up against the border.
That's right.
And then there was talk about him talking to Bill Clinton. That's how long he's been around.
That's right.
About entering NATO.
Exactly. Now that was an interesting thing. So if Russia wanted to enter NATO, what would be the objection to that? Because if the whole point of NATO is to stop Soviet aggression, and the Soviet Union is gone, and now Russia wants to enter NATO, isn't that a good thing?
The idea, why don't we participate in westernizing? Because Russia's just all by itself.
Yeah,
it's Europe, it's Asia, it's East, it's West, It doesn't, it's never really felt Western, but has always admired the West.
Yeah.
And I mean, Peter the Great, how he changed
wanted
the
to
country.
be European.
Yes, was by making it more European.
Mm-hmm.
And so here now that this stupid communism is out of the way, why don't we just snuggle up and help westernize them? And then and then Bill Clinton said, yeah, we could do that. And then he went and talked to his advisors and came back and said, sorry about that.
Yeah,
it's not happening.
Isn't it sort of like bringing the Klingons into the Federation? Like former enemies become part of your.
Yeah. And, right. So is it that we didn't trust them, or you just wanted to punish them and continue? Which is how the
warmongers in the State Department,
which is how he said it looked like. And then he sees the Iraq War, and he sees the United States going around and just changing out governments that they don't like.
Yeah.
And he says, it didn't feel very good.
And there's a claim, once again, I don't know if this is true. There's a claim that we orchestrated the coup that resulted in Zelensky coming into power in Ukraine. So, there's a lot going on that I don't trust the American media, and certainly don't trust American politicians to tell me straight about what's going on. So I want to hear what Putin says. Not that I'm going to believe it, but I want to hear his perspective so I can understand what they're thinking.
I think too. All right, so you're right. So you always have to listen that he's spinning things, just like really any politician on the Sunday news show.
Sure.
You say, well, you have to filter it through where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But then I would say blaming Poland for World War II and that what he's really in Ukraine for is to denazify the place.
Well, so the blaming Poland for World War II, I count as the stupider of the two.
Right.
Because apparently there have been some Nazi problems in Ukraine. Now, whether he's probably exaggerating that and making it into a bigger thing than it is. We need to denazify Ukraine. Well, okay, there's 5 Nazis over there.
Yeah, they're right. Yeah. There's some skinheads in one particular battalion.
Yeah, there's some skinheads in Montana too. Do we need to not denazify Montana?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I think that was, but what's smart about that move is he knows that since America is gone secular and doesn't believe in the devil, there is only one real boogeyman.
Not Hitler.
And so if you say the magic word, like I believe that the KGB has an understanding of what the American zeitgeist
of course
is
they do. Of course
in a way that we don't.
Yes.
Like, what does the average Russian on the street go? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, you're the CIA. Exactly. What are they thinking? It's hard to say. So I would say that might have been just that move. They're like, look, if there's one button you need to push, push the Hitler button, and everybody will lose their minds, and you can say whatever you want. So I think that's what that was about.
Have you seen that little golden book? It's this great thing that goes around from time to time. It's the child's little golden book, and it has a picture of Hitler riding like a magic carpet or something.
Okay.
It says, "Everyone who disagrees with me is Hitler."
yeah. And he already knows that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so he says, "All right, you got to play the Hitler card."
Right.
And so
now the other thing that came out that I'm curious about, supposedly, very shortly after the Russian incursion into Ukraine, there was a peace deal on the table that the United States said, no, you can't do that.
That would have prevented the initial incursion?
No, after the initial. Okay, so when we say initial incursion, we have to also say that Russia took Crimea several years ago.
Yes.
Although supposedly the Crimea,
which is part of Ukraine.
Yes, but supposedly
and Georgia.
Yes, but supposedly they were all ethnic Russians over there, and they voted like 90% to 10% to join Russia. And there was, when they invaded Crimea, there was no opposition. There were no shots fired. It was so I'm not endorsing that. I'm just saying that happened. You know, Russia took Crimea, and then there are also sections after the coup in Ukraine that resulted in the new regime. Apparently in Ukraine, there are areas that speak Ukrainian, and there are areas that speak Russian.
Yes.
And on the eastern side are the people who speak Russian. And the new regime under Zelensky was outlawing the Russian language and doing various things to persecute the Russian-speaking people. So
to de-Russify.
De-Russify, yeah. Remember, somehow it changed from Kiev to Kyiv all of a sudden? Like that became the thing. Now you have to say Kyiv.
It was always Kiev.
It was always Kiev. For my whole life, it was Kiev, and then suddenly it's Kyiv because that's like the Ukrainian pronunciation.
Oh, we were trying to de-Russify the language.
That's right.
Yes,
so there's a lot of things. There's a lot of questions about this that I'm not convinced of what I'm being told.
Yeah. I met a couple with. I don't know if she was the mail order bride or not, but she was Ukrainian, and her father only spoke Russian. So it's not that and she spoke both languages. It's not like they spoke both. Her dad is a Ukrainian who lived his entire life in Ukraine and only speaks Russian.
Okay,
so that tells you something.
Tells
right?
you something. That's right.
Tells you that it's not some loose tangential association that you can actually live your. So. Not saying it's right. I'm just saying they got on. All right. So denazification.
Yeah.
What about? Are you ready to move on to how Tucker seemed a little bit enamored with?
Well, let me make sure I got.
You want to finish the history?
No. Yeah, I'm good with that.
All
right. Well, there's one other thing in the interview that was very interesting was the threat of World War III. Because Putin made it clear that if U.S. troops were to get involved in Ukraine, that would he made some not so subtle suggestions that would be really bad for humanity. Yeah,
and Tucker also said, would you be done here? Because if we gave you a portion, or if you got all of Ukraine or whatever, that the concern is that you're just going to steamroll your way through Europe, and he convincingly poo-pooed the whole thing.
I think that's a ridiculous claim.
Yeah,
I personally.
He's like, what do you think? What do you think? I want World War III.
Yeah, exactly. Of all the things that people say about this, the idea that Russia, which has the
domino effect, he's going to roll into Poland, and
Russia has the GDP of less than California, and that they're going to take over Ukraine and then just like steamroll all through all these other countries. There's no way.
Poland and the other NATO countries.
There's no way in the world that's going to. I think that's just absurd, and I get sick of it when people say that. Okay, so I'm done with the interview, but then the post-interview stuff was actually pretty interesting.
So, yes, right? So he's roaming around.
They were there on vacation.
He's roaming around, and apparently it was a big deal that he came there. It was, it was like Taylor Swift or something. So he's, which is a problem, because, now he's not freely roaming around. Yeah. You have the sort of North Korean style. Minders. Yes. So, so the wonderful grocery stores, and now I don't think they changed the subway station. I'm sure the subway station, the central subway station, the main one, is as gorgeous as it.
Of course it is. It was built by Stalin, and it was made to be. Because remember the kitchen wars between Nixon and was it Brezhnev, or they would try to compare what an American kitchen and a Russian kitchen was like. The whole goal was to say our system does better for the average person, and Russia is trying to say, look, our subway is better than your subway. Yeah. So
he was a little too enamored, but our subways are garbage.
Yes.
Or you look at New York and you look at Moscow. Now, are all of Moscow's have hanging chandeliers and are clean?
Go 20 miles outside of Moscow.
I wonder. Yeah. And as far as the price of things go, well, that reflects.
It's because they're poor.
Exactly.
It's because so Tucker, you just came from one of the richest countries in the world, and you just found out that Americans traveling abroad are rich. Boy, did you not know that?
Yeah, right. That eggs from a rich farmer in upstate New York cost more than some peasant who doesn't even have an outhouse.
Yes. So his big thing was he went into this grocery store in Russia and bought a bunch of food, and how much did this cost? Oh, in America this would be $400. It was only $100. Wow. Okay, that's because they're poor. The same thing would be true in Iraq.
That's because you only get paid $100 a month.
That's right. So, yes, and that was just
a little bit
comically
lame.
Stupid.
Yes. But then the point can still be made. Why do our subways look like garbage?
Yes. That is a fair point.
Why do we have places like Kensington and Philadelphia? Why do we have drug addicts and garbage and feces everywhere? So
there's definitely something rotting in America, no question about it. Yeah. Yes, but I'm not saying. Some people will say, well, look at what they're doing in Russia. I'm not saying that's the solution. I think it's kind of dumb for people to look at Russia and say, well, they don't allow transing the kids, and they don't allow all this other stupid stuff. Yeah. Therefore, we should be like Russia. No, well, wait a minute.
No,
just because they've stumbled upon some good answers doesn't mean that they started with a good.
Right. Well, that takes me to, you're exactly right, because that comes to the Jon Stewart argument.
Yeah.
Which is, look, this is literally the price of freedom. So there are only two things. You can have subways that are dangerous and reeking of urine,
and you can have transing kids, and
you can have
chandeliers and the
no, or you can have an authoritarian police state with zero freedom.
Right.
Really?
There's nowhere between.
You got nothing in there. You either have a police state which locks up everybody for throwing a gum wrapper on the ground,
right?
Or you have drug addicts pushing people in front of trains.
Yeah. Well, we're old enough to know that that's not true.
No,
because it wasn't true when I was a kid.
No.
We were neither of those things, and we didn't have the craziness that we have now.
Yeah. So yes, no. So he still. I saw a juxtaposition of subway video.
Yeah.
One of them is New York, loud music, people jumping all over the place, and then one in Poland. And you know what it is? People sitting politely, quietly, and going to work. Isn't that what should be going on at 8 a.m. in the morning? What?
The problem in the U.S. subway is that nobody has the courage to arrest the people who are causing the trouble. And we've somehow come this like defund the police and other related stupidities that we have in the United States. There are troublemakers who get on the trains in D.C. and nobody has the courage to stop them.
Well,
Same thing in New York.
On the side of the authoritarian, but we need more people in jail.
Yeah, I don't want
that many. It would take a small number. Not everybody in a crappy neighborhood is committing crappy crimes.
Yeah.
It's just a handful.
Yeah.
And
I don't want authoritarianism, but I do want some authority.
Yeah.
I do want some enforcement. Yeah.
And the concern that... All right, how much time do we have? You got 3 minutes, right? You give me 3 minutes?
Yeah, I'll give you 3 minutes.
This is something I've seen going on my whole life, which is... We've gone from the fear of the tyranny of the majority to impose itself on the minority to the tyranny of the minority.
Absolutely.
So we've got the tail wagging the dog, where we're so worried about offending, violating the civil rights. I'm not pro violating civil rights, but so concerned about the rights of the criminal that we have to impose upon the 98% of people who are paying their taxes and going to work and behaving properly.
Right.
They must all be inconvenienced with, and now it's so much worse now with homeless encampments and
all the rest of us have to say our pronouns because 0.2% of people are
exactly. We have to ruin women's sports because 0.2% or might have their feelings hurt. We have to reinvent how bathrooms work because 0.02% don't know where to pee.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's totally nuts. We've gone way too far.
This pendulum has gone way too far. We don't have to go to Stalinville in order to restore some order for to bring this pendulum back the other way.
Yes.
Anyhow,
yes, very true.
So anyway,
so I got one final question about all this. What if a Russian journalist came over here and interviewed Joe Biden?
Oh, yeah. We would pretend that it's a violation of state secrets or something like that, but it would just be a fear of humiliation.
Of course it would be a fear of humiliation, because Joe Biden won't allow any serious person to interview him. He just gets these softball interviews, and he does a lousy job even with those.
Yes, he wouldn't even go on. He missed 2 Super Bowls in a row because Fox News was running the Super Bowl, so they were in charge of it. And yes, because
they're always softball questions.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're afraid of Megyn Kelly.
And what did he do? He had on there and talked about oh no, there's one fewer chip in my bag of chips. You know, gosh, the guy's, oh my gosh. It's unbelievable. Okay, so do we have a man of the week or something?
All right, do you have any final thoughts on this? Okay, I think the interview was legit.
Mm-hmm.
It was. There's nothing wrong with doing the interview. I don't know what we learned from that. We shouldn't, but there's nothing to fear from it.
No.
And you know.
And Tucker made a bit of a monkey of himself afterwards.
A little bit. Yeah.
So that was unfortunate.
But anyway,
I still like him, but
we don't need the CIA. Nobody needs to be arrested on treason charges.
And we don't want the CIA cracking people's signal accounts. You know? Cut that out, you morons. All right, what do you got?
I have the University of Florida, and I think I mean the entire University of Florida system, as our man of the week.
Okay.
And this is due to, well, it's DeSantis,
right,
originally, but we'll just give it to Florida Regulation 9.016 on prohibited expenditures.
Okay.
And the University of Florida has closed the Office of Chief Diversity Officer.
Good.
Eliminated DEI positions and administrative appointments.
Good.
And halted DEI-focused contracts with outside vendors.
What's the word? Fuego!
Yeah, fuera!
Fuera.
Right. Fuera. So, and yes, we'll reallocate the approximately $5 million in funds into faculty, and it said the people who are let go have first shot at any other available positions within the system.
Fair, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You know, they even have a. They even have, what was the?
So if you're fired from DEI, you can go work in some other department. That's fine.
Yeah. But if I got fired at my work, I'd get the paycheck from last week. Here you get the standard 12 weeks of pay.
Wow,
that's pretty.
That's pretty nice.
That's pretty nice. You got 12 weeks, and you have first shot at future jobs, as long as you're qualified to do something other than call people racist.
Other than DEI, right? Yes, that's the question. If somebody is like a DEI expert, are they qualified to do anything else?
And what you're doing, and what company hires somebody to call them racist? Because if you hire the person and they say, you know what, I see no evidence of racism here.
You're a lousy DEI person.
So the only thing you can do
is come in and say, boy, you guys are a bunch of horrible racists.
Otherwise, you don't have a job.
Right.
So I mean, talk about incentivizing. This is the only thing that you're incentivizing.
I know.
And
the whole DEI structure is so sick and corrupted and twisted. It's unbelievable.
Where's my other DEI? Everything DEI touches dies.
Oh yeah, where was that one? Yeah. So that one was lovely because it was had to do with Harvard and their admissions policy.
But it's got a whole variety of. These are just headlines.
Everything
from all kinds of places.
DIE touches dies. They switched the letters around. That was very clever.
That's very good.
So Bud Light with Dylan Mulvaney, that was a big mess.
They only lost $27 billion. Harvard applications.
Now, so here's my take on the Harvard applications.
Oh, what's the headline?
So Harvard early applications take a 17% dive. I'm actually sad that it's not a 100% dive. But if, let's say, you are a Jewish family and you're thinking of sending your kid to school, you have a smart kid.
An Ivy League quality kid.
Yeah, and you're thinking where you're going to send him. And you say, well, Harvard's out of the question because of what they've been doing.
Yeah.
So the supposed diversity standards at Harvard have now resulted in less diversity because now you're not going to get any Jews going there.
Yes, and
at least I hope so. I hope no Jews.
I hope that's the case. And there was a recent lawsuit where they openly discriminated against Asians.
Exactly. So
maybe the Asians aren't going to go there either. And so there you go. Diversity chief.
I know.
How's it going?
The whole diversity thing is we've touched on this several times. It is so stupid. It's hard to believe that anybody with two brain cells falls for it, but there you have it.
Then the rest of now St. Mary's, which is a girls' school, has reversed decision to consider transgender applicants. Wow.
Okay. Wow. Good for you.
Wow. How long did it take you to come to terms with that? Did you have to have a bunch of dudes move in and molest some chicks
right.
before you guys,
or shower with the ladies?
Oh, you know what? I saw that. one school, Cornell or one of the schools, is after recent studies has decided to reinstitute the SAT. Oh, okay, really? You mean something that we already knew in 1962? That the SAT is
highly correlated with success
in college, and so you get rid of it, due to FLOVID, and then you realize how your student population dives, and then you come up with new studies indicate. You're a bunch of liars.
I know.
You knew it all along, and you just thought that it wouldn't matter. I don't know why. You just hoped nobody would notice that it matters, and then it became glaringly obvious that the quality of your students has gone down. Then you're like, oh, well, after further consideration.
After another study. Yeah. It's hard to believe how crazy the world is today.
All righty then.
Okay, so Tucker, well done. Putin, you're a liar, but it was nice to hear what you had to say.
And University of Florida, good job.
Good job. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.